And today I am going to deal with a topic Rupert Brooke as war poet. Let me share my screen. It's visible. Yes, sir. Visible. So my topic is Rupert Brooke as war poet. This is my information. Points to ponder: what is war poetry or what is war literature? About Rupert Brooke or as war poet. About poem piece by Rupert Brooke. Conclusion and citation. What is war poetry? Young war poet who of the First World War established war poetry as literary genre. So before First World War, there is a literature who covers the subject of war, but as a literary genre, this war particularly the term established by the war poets. In 1940, hundreds of young men in uniform took to writing poetry as way striving to express extreme emotions at the very age of experience. So, in 1940, when the First World War is going on, so many soldiers are taking part in this war, and by the experience of war, they start to writing poetry. They feel they feel uh, and write about their experiences by this poetry. Although war poet trends traditionally to refer to active components, war poetry has been writing by many civilians caught up in the other ways. So most of the war literature written by them who have personally experienced of a war, or maybe they have suffered and troubled from a war situation. They experience very well, and then they write their experience through the medium of poetry or literature. So the war poetry became the reflection of soldiers' own experience or war, suffering cause of war, etc. War poetry is not necessarily anti-war. So in war literature, we cannot find only about the problems or suffering from war. Also, we can find the patriotism or love for nations in the war literature. It is, however, about the very large question of life, identity, innocence, guilt, loyalty, courage, compassion, humanity, duty, desire, and that. It's all etc. Were felt by the soldiers who are fighting in the field. By their experiences, they write all those things and cover all those aspects in their poetry, or we can say literature. Uh, its response to the questions and its relation to immediate personal experiences to moment of national and international crisis gives war poetry an extra literary importance. About Rupert Brooke. Rupert Brooke, full name of Rupert Brooke is Rupert Chalmers Brooke, who was born on 3rd August 1887 and died on 23rd April 1915. He was an English poet known for his idealistic war sonnets written during the First World War. In today's time, there are so many writers or critics who not count Rupert Brooke as the main figure or main point from the war poet, but because his all sonnets are related to the positivity towards war. He was handsome, charming, and talented. Brooke was the national hero even before his death in 1950 at the age of 27. Brooke's early years were typically or virtually every English boy who was a member of a well to do family. He attended a prestigious boarding school, Rugby, and where his father was a headmaster, studied Latin and Greek, and began to write poetry. Also, he has joined Oxford University to study further. About the poem Peace. The poem written during late 1940s expressed the hopefully idealism and enthusiasm with which Britain entered the war. In sonnet Peace, Brooke rejoiced the feelings of that war is a welcome relief to a generation for whom life had been empty and void of meaning. It is a sonnet poem which is written in 14 lines. The poem begins with the deterministic recognition of the war as part of God's divine plan. So, in this poem, Rupert Brooks uh, Rupert Brooks, according to Rupert Brooks, the war situation is a divine plan by God. So that is all about being thankful to God for divine one, the strength to reach peace, and for the opportunity of having their sins absolved through the death or good cause, herefore to be able to enter in heaven. So this is a original poem. Now God be thanked who has matched us with his hour and caught our youth and weakened us a sleeping with hand made sure, clear eye and sharpened power to turn a swimmer into the cleansing leaping. So here the line this hour means the situation of war. The poet is a very thankful to God to give him a chance to be a part of a war situation, and the God give inspiration to a young. In this poem, Rupert Brooks as seems as like a messenger to a God who declares the situation of a war to in a future to be something good with the handmade shore and clear eyes. These both words shows the maturity level. So whatever the soldiers or the fighters are doing, they doing by their maturity, and God give them a power that turns the swimmers into the cleansing leaping. Led from a word grown old and cold and weary, leave a seek hearts that honors could not move, a half men and their dirty songs and dreary, and all the little emptiness and love. So here we can see a contrast between two words, seek hearts and Sikh hearts means who are a coward or running from their duty to be fight for their country. Rupert Brooke called them openly a half man. It is like insulting to them who are not want to be part of a war or not give their contribution to their country. Oh, we who have a known shame, we have found release there. where there is no ill, no grief, but sleep has mending. Not broken, save this body, lost but breathe. Nothing to shake the laughing hearts, a long peace there. So in these lines also he's talking about he was talking about uh, the people who are avoiding the situation of war, where there is no ill. If we become a part of a war, God give hereby he said that God gives us chance to uh, uh, whatever we have done as a part of a sin. If we do our contribution in war, we give up give our contribution to war, then there is no illness, no grief, and no sleeping has mentally. So by this line we also mentioned that if we have done so many sins during our life, if we take a part in war and died for our country, maybe God gives us a heaven. So maybe this line shows that religious type of thinking of Brooke, sin and hell and heaven, all those relating to the religion, or but only agony that has ending, and the worst friend and enemy is but death. So the agony can be solved only by the happiness, only by to be happy. So for the soldiers, they died for their they fighting for their country and died for their country. So so ultimately happiness, or for them agony can solve by that. But though they are happy, soldiers are happy to be died for their country. Conclusion. In this poem, poet covers the themes like love and peace. Love for country, and they wants a peace from the war. So by the poem, poet addressed the value of honor of fighting in the war. So in all our poem, we can find a positive side of war. Poet shows the positive side of war. So this is my presentation. Thank you, and this is citation.
Hello, Divya. What is the intention of war poetry?
War poetry or war literature written by the members who were personally experienced in the war, and they wrote about a situation of war, what they are feeling in that particularly situation, about identity, or about their thinking of death and their duty. So uh, the intention of war poetry to show the situation of war and how the fighters are feeling during the war.
Sir, I'm asking. Robert Brooke joined as a Navy. Do you find any his own experience in the style of writing of this poem?
In this particular poem, I am not find that reference which he has experienced by the navy, but the situation of a war, it is there in poem. So I am not able to find his experience of navy in this poem.